What's up, guys? So about a week ago, I was in Detroit, Michigan, having an amazing time at Youmacon 2016. Now that it's been a week later, that means it's time for the review. So the first things that I like to talk about are generally going to be the things that I feel impact the overall score least, or at least cause the least amount of issues, and were generally just positive around the board. So the first place I'm going to talk about is the game room. The game room was by far, I think, the best game room that I've been to the entire year. Anime Milwaukee always has the game room to beat for me, and Youmacon like kicked it out the door, like threw its games there, stepped on the ground, all like Office Space style. Okay, and actually, to be fair, the game rooms were actually not that far apart, but Youmacon just had more of what was available at Anime Milwaukee, and part of that was mostly just due to the size. Youmacon had a bigger room to deal with, where Anime Milwaukee doesn't, because they both had, in terms of like rhythm games, a very similar source, I guess you could say, in Tokyo Attack. Anime Milwaukee gets Tokyo Attack, so did Youmacon, so that part's not really, I guess, fair to judge them differently by, but just the fact that then there were still newer games being brought to Youmacon that weren't at Milwaukee, and there was more of them, which made it overall better. I mean, just because it's a bigger convention, you could say like, oh, that's not fair, but that's just the way it is. Secondly, I want to go over the merch room. The merch room was huge. It had a ton of space. I would say it about equaled the size of Anime Midwest's merch room. But honestly, I probably, even though I would say it's overall positive, I would say I kind of preferred Anime Midwest's merch room a little bit more. And I'm not just saying that because there was not maybe all of the panels that I had been to, but I mean, a lot of conventions generally have like a lot of the same type of content, figures, plushes, you know, you name it. Like there's going to be a lot of these anime things, and I a lot of times kind of judge these merch rooms based on the new things they bring to the table. Now, one thing I will give the benefit to Youmacon over Anime Midwest is I think that their artist alley was much better, more just because I think they had more people. As much praise though as I am going to give the merch room and artist alley, I did only get one thing this time, but mostly because when you have to spend as much as we did for the hotel room and gas for a 6-hour car drive, I was only going to get one thing. I was going to get none, so it's better than I would have originally thought. So next up, I kind of want to talk about an area that I generally don't go too into detail with, which is cosplay integration. The con itself is generally pretty relaxed with how cosplay can be shown at the convention. You can, you know, there can be yokos, there can be nudist speechists. I'm not sure how they were on the male nipple scandal or controversy that kind of goes around conventions. I saw some people just covering up, but I wasn't sure if it was a joke because I saw others not. So I don't know if they got in trouble or not, or vice versa. So I'm not sure if that's a big factor, but they were still pretty relaxed on pretty much everything. So as a result, I think they were able to allow cosplayers to be the cosplay that they wanted to be, which I always am for. I generally will give marks to a convention who will allow their attendees to be the cosplays they want to be, even if it shows a little bit more than maybe what is PG in American standard. So the final quick area is going to be the guests. There were so many guests! So that's the greatest part about doing guests this way, is that not only do those guests, you know, who may be a little bit lesser known, get themselves out there a little bit more, but the convention is still going to bring a ton of people because of these big names that are out there, like J. Michael Tatum and whatnot. You know, like those people will bring them in, and then they will find the lesser known voice actors or, you know, just guests in general, and they'll get more attention that they probably deserve for, I mean, even just being invited to be a guest at that convention. I'm going to go with they probably deserve it. Alright, so now the next categories we're going to go into a little bit more detail in. I know I was talking for a bit on the other ones, but these ones I'm actually going to go into specific aspects that I'm kind of looking at when it comes to my final decision. So the first place in this area we're going to talk about is the rave. Now generally with the rave, I a lot of times like to kind of see them start a little bit earlier. Not necessarily like 9 o'clock, that's a little early, but I always kind of think of like starting at 10 or 11 as kind of like these prime like areas to start, because there's always kind of the factor that, especially when you make a rave be available to those under 18, which I believe Youmacon did. Having it start at midnight like Youmacon did this year is a bit late for that, and then therefore because it goes for so long into the morning, I think there's a huge drop off that starts to happen as, you know, people start to crash from their drinking, or at least just crash from pure tiredness, you know, because not everybody is a 24-hour type of, you know, con goer. And I know there are some that go to conventions and don't sleep. I would not recommend doing that because it's unhealthy, but I know that does exist. But again, those are going to be the minority, and that's why I usually kind of like to see them start a little bit earlier and kind of end maybe around the like 3 in the morning mark. I would say is probably usually the best, but I'm not going to like trash the rave because it started at midnight. It was still an awesome rave. The music was really good. The DJs were super cool. The hype guys were awesome. It was just a great show overall. So like I think they put a lot of great quality into it. So there's not much really I can say that was bad, because there's not really much way you can make a rave be bad unless, you know, you just have bad DJs. Milwaukee. So next up, I'm going to talk about panels. So the panels this year were actually really cool. There was a lot of really interesting panels, and this is usually also where I like to show you the book. So this was the panel / map and convention booklet that you get, that is literally your lifeline to knowing what the hell is going on at a convention. And this was Youmacon's this year, and it was actually very well put together, I think. They did a very good job at organizing everything. It's going to be a little distant, I apologize. But they had all the tournaments here, and then eventually you kind of go down. The maps were generally pretty awkward to read at first, but mostly just because there's a lot to take in. These are between it being both the Ren Center and the Kobo Center. You know, it's a large area, so there's a lot of rooms to go through. But what is really good is how they do the panel list. So this is done in alphabetical order for the booklet. So generally I like to have this kind of be done in schedule order. So you can have like all the descriptions here of what panels are when, and you generally aren't super confused of when they are. And you kind of know like when exactly it's going to be around other panels you want to go to. I usually like them done that way, but that's not always the easiest way to have it done, and I understand that. But what they do is a great job of having this description here and having the days and the location right in the listing here. So you can actually see on here when the panels are, what time they are, you know, where they're going to be, which is actually really nice to have in general, along with the descriptions that are here. So it's always nice to have that, and it's nice that it is descriptive exactly there, because it also then does show you, it does have a full schedule in which it does have, you know, the times that things are in and the rooms that they're in. So they're organized by their rooms going down, and you can see what the panel names are in these little white boxes here, which is really nice, because then you can at least see when things are compared to other panels you want to go to, and you can always just star them in the book and whatnot. So even though I always prefer them to be in scheduled order when in the description section, so that the block schedule essentially isn't required, it's obviously not at fault of them to expect you to do a little bit of work and just like star the ones you want to go to and actually, you know, plan on your own terms what you want to do. I know, it's crazy, right? So the final area I'm going to be talking about today is location. So for those that don't know, Youmacon takes place between the Detroit Marriott Renaissance Center and the Kobo Center in downtown Detroit, Michigan. And these two locations are actually really good. I mean, the city maybe isn't the greatest, but you know, it also is very populous, so it has a plus because of. But the buildings themselves are actually really nice, and they are huge. The only negative part about it is kind of the travel. For those that are maybe a little tentative to travel, you know, through the streets of Detroit, as you would be expected to feel that way at night, especially. Going between the Renaissance Center and the Kobo, there is a people mover, which is kind of like a monorail that just goes around a section of the city. The only issue is that it's one way. So going from the Renaissance Center to the Kobo Center is pretty short. It's only about 2 stops, so I would say, you know, it's like 3 minutes or so. But going from the Kobo Center to the Renaissance Center is like 11 minutes. And there, with a path that goes from the Kobo to the Renaissance to the hotel, there's a small, you know, it's much shorter to walk back. But the problem is kind of the safety. And there's nothing really Youmacon can do about this, but it's more just kind of the word of warning to anybody is that you are going to have a bit of a wait. And there's not much of a solution to this though. So there's not really, I can't really punish the convention for that because it's nothing that they can control. The Renaissance Center looks really cool. The Kobo Center is a cool looking place as well. They're both huge, so there's plenty of space to walk into. I made a note in a vlog where it was like, it felt like there wasn't a lot of people there on Friday, when there definitely was. There was definitely a lot of people there because there are plenty of lines at each of the panels that I went to. So I know that definitely there were people there, but it didn't feel like it was crowded. It didn't feel like I had to step over people or run into people all the time. Like I was able to vlog and record pretty freely. I mean, outside of, you know, your occasional, you know, con goer D-bag who doesn't realize I'm clearly filming someone. So the final thing I want to talk about, which isn't necessarily a category usually, but was definitely one I'm going to talk about here for this convention, which is staff issues. I mean, first of all, it seemed like the press chair was the only one doing work in preparation of the press and media badges going into the convention, which should never be the case. He should have some help by staff members before the convention even starts. He shouldn't just have to rely on volunteers to help him. He can have the volunteers check people in, but he should not rely on them to set things up for him or help him. There should be someone on staff who can help that person. But regardless of that, what happened was that I went on Friday. We had gotten an email saying that our badge pickup area had been moved, and we got there on Thursday, so we were thinking like, oh, maybe we can try to kind of like see what is up with our press badges when we're going to pick them up, because the issue is Youmacon never sent any email saying when and where badge pickup was going to be before they even sent us the email that it was moved. So they told us it was moved, but we honestly had to just assume that originally badge pickup was going to be where normal registration was. Otherwise, we had zero clue as to where we were supposed to be and when it was going to happen. So we went on Thursday to figure out maybe what's going on. So we went to the pickup room. So we went to the con ops room, which is where the new pickup location was on Thursday. We were greeted by Real T Dragon and a couple of the YouTubers I can't remember the names of because they didn't have cards, but we had pretty much they told us that they had been waiting for him for a number of but they had told us that they had been waiting for him for a good chunk of time, and you know, had really heard nothing of where he was. The staff members that were in there had been trying to get a hold of him through text messaging and calling him, but he hadn't responded for a while. And then eventually we were told that he was out and he wasn't going to be back until 9. And we had been told this around 8:30 when we had been waiting for about 15 minutes already. So we were a little annoyed at that, but we're like, okay, I guess he may have some things to do, or at least I was. So I figured we can come back at 9, see what happens. We come back at 9 and he's still not there. All of a sudden we're told, oh, he's not going to be back until maybe between 9:30 and 10. And this is kind of more when we become upset, because it's one factor to, I mean, just tell us like when we should be here tomorrow even, right? But there's just no communication happening here. And now he's essentially just pushing back when he's going to be there to do literally even anything, right? And it's just like, that's just feels like it's unprofessional, and he should give more reason as to why, you know, he's late, or, you know, what he's doing. You know, just communicate with us more as to what the hell is going on. But then Friday rolls along and we get there, and we are told, by the way, on Thursday to come at 9 in the morning because he'll probably be there. So we get there. He's not there. We shouldn't be surprised at this point, but you know, I probably still was a little bit. There are clearly staff miscommunications between members that should be reconciled and should be done better in the future. But then we were told eventually that he was going to be there at noon when normal registration time was, which would have been great if we were told that like days or maybe weeks ago. So noon rolls along and he's still late. I mean, by about 15 minutes this time at least, so we knew kind of what was going on. But a lot of people had been waiting around for a number of days at this point, really, between Thursday and Friday. And, you know, people are getting restless, especially because he has to manage badge refunds for those who had media badges or who had at least already purchased or pre-registered a badge for just like a normal person. And, you know, he comes into the room and is completely unprepared. Look, I understand that the head of press had to juggle multiple responsibilities at this convention, but A, if that's going to be a problem, then you should be delegating more staff members. And then B, there should at least have been some realm of preparation for media and press badge pickup. There was literally none. Especially because he walks into the room, sits down, and confirms to all of us that we need to be careful, like we need to be slow or whatever, because he is literally running on 0 hours of sleep. I mean, like I said, I understand if he had to juggle multiple responsibilities, but the situation was still handled very unprofessionally for somebody that heads a department that requires professional material from its press and media personnel. Another small instance was that for a friend of mine's panel, there was the tech person that was helping them set up for the panel. However, because he was tech staff, he wasn't actually supposed to be the badge checker, and the badge checker, I guess, just wasn't there. So he asked me if I can do it, and technically I'm staff, so as part of media and press, so I did do it, and I did it to the best of my ability. It's not like I was going to, you know, just trash the convention or whatever, the convention rules or whatever. You know, I did check badges, I did it as best I could, but there was nobody there then to essentially take my place for like 15 to 20 minutes of the panel, which shouldn't be that slow of a response time, which is definitely a problem. The issue is, but the reality is that although these kind of seem like very big errors done by the convention, they kind of are fixed by simple solutions, in my opinion. So part of what seems to be the root of all the evil here is kind of poor communication among the staff members. I mean, relying on messages and phone calls to try to be able to communicate with each other may seem like it should be the best solution, but it's just not. I know that people just will not respond to text messages, and it can be completely unreliable. Again, I would know. I'm friends with Remnant Jet. But yeah, I think an actual simple solution to that then is just investing in radios. But yeah, like I was saying, like I think the simple solution for this is the con just invest in radios for its staff members, you know, or at least the staff heads, you know, at least a group of people that can always communicate with each other and get things done as quickly as possible. Because if there was at least just a staff member on the floor that this panel was on that could communicate to, you know, headquarters and just be like, hey, we need a badge checker in this room, you know, instead of having to wait until the text message got there, then I feel like it could have been done a little bit better. I mean, the badge checker that eventually did show up was able to get tech staff to come to our panel room pretty quickly, to be fair. So it's not like it was a complete problem all the time, because it's not like panels were running late and all this crap, but it was more that it was these small issues that kind of built up to just be a bit of signs of what could become a larger problem should they go unrecognized. Okay, so finally, who is this con best suited for? This is kind of hard for me to pin down because there are so many great things about this convention. I mean, granted, there were some issues, but like I said, I think there are small fixes to at least make them better, even if it's just getting a new press chair. However, based on the fact that the large city it's in, how transportation has to be coordinated within the convention, not even just getting there, but how to transport yourself at the convention, and just a large number of people, I would definitely say that this con is for the bigger is better type of con goer. You know, those who love to be just in this sea of people who have all like these like minds, and, you know, just want to be able to talk to new people, be able to explore, and just, you know, be a part of such a big moment. It just has a lot of fun things to do, and, you know, everybody there was so cool to meet, and everybody was nice, and even the staff there was really nice, and like it was a great time to just have. Still, even though I did kind of narrow it down, I still would recommend this convention to everyone. Like, I completely recommend everybody go to this convention. I had an amazing time. I was able to do so many cool things. Like I said, everybody that I met there was so cool. I got great cosplays. Too many, in fact, that I couldn't even fit them all in the cosplay music video. So, and I haven't really had that problem much. So the fact that I did was so great, and I couldn't be happier with the way that things turned out. And I really hope that I do get to go again in the future. I'm pretty much planning on it. But that's gonna do it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Still, I would love to see what you guys have to say about the things that I've talked about in this review for Youmacon in the comments below, right below that subscribe button, which you can hit to get more great videos coming out for maybe other conventions. I got plenty of vlogs coming, gaming thing or two in the future. But otherwise, I will see you guys then, and I really hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed Youmacon, which was a lot. So you better enjoy it. Or not, whatever. I'll see you guys later.